Welcome to it, which brings those perplexing questions in love into your home. The viewer. I am your host, Patrick Penguin. Joining me today, Professor Hawking, whose thesis on the desirability of work earned him attention on a global scale. Also with me is Professor Kurtzy, on my right here, a distinguished thinker who has recently quoted as saying, "Hey lads, what should we do when my parents go away next?" Philosophers, they like to distinguish between fantasy and reality. If you ask me though, it's easy. Reality is the thing that if you walk into it, smacks you in the face. And fantasy is that thing that it's okay to think about, but if you do, they lock you up. Anyway, without further... Come on.
Mr. Flopper?
Flopper wanker?
Is this your arsehole?
I believe it reads, Mr. Flopperdopoulos of Houston. Fortunately, he has printed the question.
I have all the impatience of youth, you Irish cock. What does it say?
What
Say perhaps
problems
get
are
rid of
raised?
evil after I say...
What problems are raised by the idea that God intervenes in the world? Can they be resolved?
Many problems are raised by the idea that God intervenes in the world.
And what are they?
Well, if he intervenes, what does he actually do?
Well, God-like things, but don't ask me what they are.
What sort of things ought God do in consistency with his defining predicates?
Well, he's said to be benevolent.
So what sort of things ought a benevolent God do?
Perhaps get rid of evil. Aha! But evil obviously doesn't exist.
No, obviously does exist.
But evil... Oh shit.
Don't worry about it, just carry on, man.
Aha! But evil's the obvious...
Shut
But evil obviously exists, so God doesn't intervene from a benevolent perspective.
There are, however, arguments which can excuse this apparent lack of action.
And what are they?
Augustine's argument of free will is perhaps the most popular of such arguments. It says that God has given mankind the free choice of doing good or doing evil, based on the thought that if man chose to do good, he would be better than a robotic counterpart who was forced to be nice. This way, God can only let good people into heaven, rather than by surrounding himself with a bunch of programmed nuns. However, it is unclear whether or not people could have the free will without the capacity to do evil deeds.
Hang on, the free will argument is not relevant here because the questioner asked about problems raised by the idea of God intervening. The free will argument says God does not want to intervene, and he'll leave it to humans, which is in contrast to the point you are arguing.
But how do you mean?
Well, you're trying to solve the problem of evil.
Yes.
Say that God intervenes, even though there's evil.
Yes.
By saying that God hasn't intervened, I mean, surely it's a contradiction, man.
Not so. Even if the free will argument excuses the problem of evil, God can still intervene in the other works of life.
So, it is possible to use the free will argument in the defence of God, yet still be able to say that God intervenes.
Indeed.
What?
All this good and evil like is doing my head in, I can tell you. It's doing my head in. How can we label something? Give an example. If the police busted a drug dealer, the conventional view would be that a good thing has happened,
Yes.
whereas an acid head would say an evil thing has happened.
Boo.
In the true plane of reality, what is good and what is evil? And what is evil is really a relative thing. Therefore, why should God eradicate evil when it
Just
doesn't
pass
even
the script
exist
over.
as such?
I reckon we might as well just sod it and pass the scripts over Barry and take them.
However, Christians work on absolutist terms, and they would say certain acts will always be evil. As God is also said to be the source of morality, he must distinguish between what he thinks is good and what he thinks is evil. Otherwise, God would be amoral, which is contrary to the common held beliefs. Go into page 4.
So if God doesn't think something is evil, why, tell me? Why doesn't he get rid of it? Even through... Oh, Christ. Why doesn't he get rid of it? Through divine intervention.
Perhaps the divine one believes evil is necessary to appreciate good.
That's a really crap argument, because it fails to explain this amount of evil. We don't need this much evil to appreciate good. Just a smidgen would do. A little bit.
For an example, an acid head would only need to gobble one sunrise of the first batch to hit town, for example, to appreciate the quality of supersonic.
Oh, the Glastonbury one is so good.
Perhaps
Fucking
the
A, mate,
divine one.
fucking A.
Yeah,
uses-
sure, man.
Perhaps the divine one uses evil as a means to the ends of a greater good. If good is the result of evil, then it's justifiable.
But more evil comes from evil than good comes from evil. Can't you see that? Like a good thing about war is that people club together, man. But that doesn't mean that war is good, because people, they die!
Perhaps the divine one uses evil to test the mettle of humans. If humans are crap by it, man, then they're not worthy anyway, you know? Like, alternatively, evil
Bit of a methadone,
is
mate.
to improve ourselves. It's
Love.
character forming, man.
It's a bit elitist for my taste. Some people, they get more evil than others. Look at Joss, for example.
But perhaps that's because they need more.
Yeah, right. God rips apart communities because they need it? I think not!
Perhaps humans actually need evil because it gives them something to do. Spend your life fighting it, working for food to avoid hunger, you know. I don't work as such myself, so I can avoid AM and home in on PM. Not that I like the PM. No, I hate JM, but that's QED.
Sorry to interrupt, but this conversation is beginning to ramble. We've only mentioned one area of inquiry relating to the question, and that was the problem of evil.
Wear a yellow
Why
cap
we-
or something,
why
make
we
it really
pause?
obvious with the
Why we
continuity.
pause, man?
Right, where did we get to? What was the question, by the way?
Tell me to go.
Go.
What was the question, by the way?
What problems are raised by the idea that
God intervenes in the world. Can they be resolved? Well, thank you. Well, the problem of evil, it can be resolved. Ish.
Yes, as we've explained, we really need to speed up the tempo of this discussion.
It's open mode now, lads. That's alright, we can read this freely. Well, Christians claim that faith healing is an example of God intervening.
Call me stupid, but what is this faith healing stuff?
Well, stupid, some people, if they get ill, they pray to God, and occasionally they get better. They attribute this to divine intervention.
But there's not really any proof for this. They're getting better is more likely due to the natural processes of healing.
Well, true, but the believers, they point to examples which have founded the medical profession, such as doctors writing off patients, then a priest who comes along, prays, the patient dude makes a full recovery, before there's cancers, tumours, diseases having disappeared.
Quite odd.
However, who said the medical profession knew their arse from their tit anyway?
I see the medical profession are not infallible.
Things like hypnosis, acupuncture, had lots of needles inserted into your body and overdose on herbs. People would probably laugh if this unconventional quack suggested his patient was being purged of his ill health.
Indeed. So if the medical profession thinks someone is about to die and they don't die, it doesn't mean God stepped in to remove the bucket from the patient's oscillating foot. There are other possible reasons as to why this bloke got better.
Basically, the idea that God intervenes in the world is a belief and therefore cannot be proven. It's rational if you're a Christian or some similar faith which incorporates its intervention belief, but irrational outside of these faith spheres. The faith of Christianity teaches its skivvies that God intervenes, and if someone believes that something has happened which proves that God intervenes, that's rational for them, and a plausible interpretation for someone else who is a Christian.
Listen, man, it's the whole miracle thing. If something's said to be a miracle, which is basically what this divine intervention thing is, then it still doesn't prove that God caused it. But it's one possible interpretation. It may reinforce an already existent belief in someone's mind that it won't convert the skeptic, you know.
Ah, I see what you mean, man. God's intervention is therefore possible but not provable, just like everything about philosophy of religion.
And like,
Controversial medical statement.
Oh, this bit's not on.
yeah,
Is it?
Record.
yeah. It's lucky the camera stopped rolling anyway, man.
Yeah, man.
Christ, this is good shit.
Yeah, man. I know. I think the voiceover is still on, man. Oh, we better check. Shit!
And your cameras around me, and very rarely stay hold. I was a booty beggar, I'm in cold. The table, David Junker, Atkinson, Schopenhauer, and Hegel. Mr. Schlegel, there's nothing Richard couldn't teach about the raising of the itself was permanently we will not hold much Daniel particularly ill. They say to sing away, not great whiskey every day. Not Aristotle was a bucket for the bowl. Hobbes was part to his dram. And every time was a drunken pop. I drink, therefore I am. Particularly missed. Once more, lads. There's nothing dangerous than the rising of the Socrates itself was permanently dead. Johnson Hill, time free will, and Hopkins Shelby particularly ill. They say can stick it away, after whiskey every day. All there was a bucket for the bowl, Hobbes was ponderous dram. And Ray Descartes was drunken pie, drink therefore I am. Yes, Socrates himself was particularly big.
Did you film that all right?
I suppose the executive behind Philosophy Today must be getting annoyed that we fill up our programme with
Time.
Our
Programme time.
with crap like this instead of nourishing debate. Well, let's surprise them with another question, hey? This time from Missy Stupid of Belgium.
Why not?
Do non-animal humans... Do non-human animals have rights?
What rights do you mean?
Christ, I don't know.
Because there are said to be two types of rights. There are said to be two types of rights, Mike.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What types of rights are that? And what are they?
Firstly, there are inalienable natural rights.
The natural rights, they're...
Oh!
The 17th and 18th centuries, such as John Locke in England and Thomas Jefferson in America, have had considerable influence upon liberal ideology. For Locke and Jefferson, rights were natural in that they were invested in human beings by nature or by God. These rights are inalienable because other people should not take them away.
It's another one of your. And what are they?
And what are they?
And what are
Well,
they?
for Locke, these are three such rights: life, liberty, and property. But Jefferson thought the right to property was not invested by God, so in the American Declaration of Independence, he described natural rights as those of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That's true. I read that myself somewhere.
Yeah, I came across it.
Anyway, so far I've only actually described one of these types of rights, but there is another type.
And what are they?
Well, those rights which are given by the state.
Like the one which says, I can party, man.
Not anymore! If the state gives the rights, it can similarly recall them. For example, Section 5, the Criminal Justice Bill, is eroding the rights of the travelling community. Sorry, Mike.
Listen, man, I've still got me right to free speech. Smash the state. Bloody waster. Smash the state. Bloody waster.
This human rights rhetoric is all very nice, but the questioner actually asked if non-human animals have rights.
Well, can I have some attention? Thank you.
It's on you.
If there's an act of legislation, which I do think there is, which says don't be cruel to animals, then animals do have rights. The state gives variety. For example, like all this bestiality stuff, you know, like there's a sheep shack around at the moment.
Yeah?
Yeah, man.
Whoa.
It's strange, isn't it, Mike?
I heard,
But
like,
you've been out of town for a few days now, so you probably don't know what it is.
yeah,
you know?
something about someone in a little red car, you know.
Yeah, anyway, just think about these state-given rights, you know. Can I have some attention?
It was on you all the time.
Yeah, think about these state-given rights. They can be taken away. Sorry, Flossie.
No!
Ha!
No! Can I see back?
Okay, you're lucky the right still exists at the moment, but we'll get another criminal justice bill, man, and it will take that away too.
No, man.
Anyway, do you want to see something, presenter?
But do animals have rights of the inalienable ilk?
No! Humans don't either, from my opinion. Inalienable rights is a preposterous notion.
Why do you say that?
Well, where do they come from? Where do they come from, these rights?
Ja.
Huh, that's okay if you're a religious dude, but what about us skeptics?
We need them to live a human existence.
We need these rights to live a human existence, you say?
If you look around the world at other societies, you'll notice people have sort of similar things. Some are shelter, you know. Because humans need shelter, we've got a right to it. Therefore, I can justifiably squat.
But rights, it requires obligations. You can't forget that, man. And they limit your freedom. Should we really allow someone to be sheltered in all circumstances? Like, for example, suppose someone, like a traveller, for example, was to trash every site they visited.
I didn't, man.
No, I didn't say you did, man! Again.
Smokers better into the picture.
Right, are you ready?
Yeah.
But rights, it requires obligations, yeah? People forget this, but, you know, rights requires obligations, and they limit freedom. Should we really allow someone to be sheltered in all circumstances? For example, suppose someone, like a traveller, for example, just for example...
No!
I didn't say you! I said for example! You gotta get with conscience, have you?
I'm just saying it was nothing to do with
Look,
me,
suppose they trashed every site they visited. If this was an inalienable natural right, yeah, other people cannot stop this. Rights, they're a persistent hassle. They endlessly clash. They should be ditched. Their existence cannot even be proved anyway. Their existence cannot be proved anyway.
I think we've established that. Let's do this. Oh, sorry. So we can definitely say that humans have rights, let alone animals.
God's a nice bloke. He didn't just give humans rights. He gave little animals rights too.
I think we've established that to do this because God says so argument is a crazy cop-out.
Look at Animal Society, man. They all hunt.
Yeah, look at them.
Even little Flossie
Look, Fluffy,
here.
he hunts. And he hunts the pudgy mum.
They'll hunt. Therefore, they have a right to hunt. They're all alive as well.
You got it
Boing, boing. Therefore, they've got a right to life. Haven't you, mate?
What? You're saying a little Fluffy, like he's got a right to life, and he's also got a right to hunt, yeah?
Yeah, man.
Well, what are they meant to do when they catch something? And after hunting it, do they say, "I'm sorry, you've got a right to life, I will let you go"? Oh, never mind me. You've got a right to hunt, so I'm obliged to let you kill me. Hang on, I'm obliged to let you live.
Paddy?
Basically, you know, the rights, they clash in the animal kingdom too. It's on to the presenter, I think, for the bit.
Yeah, man. The question made me thinking more on the lines of do animals deserve to become meat for humans or not? The question was probably thought of perhaps slaughterhouses, or as more so as animals having rights.
attention, please.
It's on. Okay.
It's not focusing on me.
It is.
It's not. It's over there. Anyway, look. If you think humans have rights, why not give them to animals too?
But which animals, he says?
But which animals?
The animals which are persons.
Oh well, we're down to this classic insomnia cure. Tell me, what is a person?
You might say the defining predicates of a person are
A.
intellect, a fair amount of, B. emotions, the deep ones,
C, man.
Ben,
Pain.
pleasure, and the distinction, ability to feel,
D.
some element of individuality.
Okay. So if you say all persons have rights, you can eliminate the ant, but rescue the dolphin. Eliminate the ant, but rescue the dolphin.
Sorry everyone. Humans have rights, but animals don't.
Well, you asked to say if it's consistent to say if humans have animal rights, humans have rights, but animals don't. However, if you are a species, that is okay. But if you think rights are God-given, then you're probably a Christian. And most Christians of the traditional ilk are speciesists. So yes, it can be consistent to say that humans have rights, but animals don't. Alternatively, you could divide person in such a way it solely incorporates humans. Like you sort of bump up the scale of individuality and the ability to feel pain and emotions and things. Yeah, but you could, you know.
It's out of order, mate. It's well out of order.
Anyway, Patrick, have you got anything else you want to know?
No, not for the minute, no.
Alright.
No.
Do you want to sort of wind it
Got
up?
any backy, anyone?
There, it's over there.
From where?
No, just read, man.
Oh, sorry.
Stop cameras.